Hey everyone, welcome. We're going to kick off momentarily. We'll just give everyone a few minutes. We've got a few minutes till 3 o'clock, and then we'll get straight into it. Thanks so much. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. It's just gone 3 o'clock. We'll allow everyone just a minute or two, and then we'll get straight in. Okay, welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Let's get straight into it. So this topic came directly from the community. You told us you wanted to know what the platform changes mean for your business and whether the way you're set up right now would survive a shock. And I mean, there's huge amounts of conversation right now. I don't know if all of you've seen the recent Sunday Times picked it up. So the survey that's been going around, that's actually gone to Adam J at Vinted. So he's actually responded, which is great. But that is what the next 30 minutes covers. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk Vinted, eBay, as well as Depop, and look at what do the changes mean and how you can make your business ultimately more resilient and more successful, even when these platforms change and these marketplaces change what they do. So these are not hypotheticals. I think that's the first thing to say. So this relisting to boost visibility is something that's been standard practice for years on Vinted. It's now a permanent ban. And this started in September 2025. What's happened is there's been a switch to automated enforcement driven by AI in January 2026. So they're now using perceptual hashing. So if you delete a listing, you re-upload using the same photo, that will automatically be picked up. It'll be caught in seconds. And 2 strikes, you're out. You'll get a warning. You'll get a review queue. Cropping the photo, adjusting the brightness, that doesn't fool it either. So they're now looking at the structure of the image, not just the pixels. So that's on Vinted. On eBay, used to be very common. You could run a private account. Obvious reasons, right, in terms of fees. That also is being picked up. And eBay is looking to crack down on it. Why? Obviously, because they introduced, of course, private accounts don't have fees, and they're now using AI to do that. So Depop, Depop's interesting. Depop, as sure you're aware, eBay announced the acquisition in February, buying it for like over $1 billion. It's actually going through, so it's not necessarily a done deal. That's going through the Competition and Markets Authority. It's going through a phase 1 review that kind of concluded back at towards the beginning of this month, and a decision is expected in the summer. And nothing, I think it's fair to say at this point in time, it's not necessarily clear, what Depop strategy will be going forward. But for sure, there's likely to be an evolution. So look at these things. I mean, nothing you did, we did, changed. The platforms did. So let's look at each one just in a bit more, just from the perspective of, well, what does it mean, right? So give some context to it. So Vinted, 2024, over 800 million in revenue, growing over 30%. That in 2025 was over 1 billion. Their valuation in April this year was over 8 billion. So they had a secondary share sale. So they're just exchanging. So some of their shareholders were buying and selling shares. They are clearly getting themselves ready to do an IPO. So they're moving towards more this kind of scrutiny, which is why they're cracking down, right? They're tightening their policies. They're getting much more systematic. The relisting ban, the API crackdowns, the commercial seller enforcement. This is all about making Vinted look, very attractive to a big investment or big institutional investors, should say. eBay, on the other hand, eBay's fees went up. We've talked about the private business reclassification, so AI flagging commercial accounts. And final value fee, that's on top of that. The regulatory operating fee, VAT as well on fees. So these costs are kind of not going away, and eBay, like Vinted, is cracking down. And Depop's really interesting. So in the context of kind of why did eBay buy Depop? Depop, strong Gen Z, younger target. Question is, will they bring in more of this kind of infrastructure, right? Some of this compliance, the authenticity guarantee, payment changes and charges. So that's very much to come. But each one is optimizing for different things, which are not necessarily helpful right now to resellers and to us. So when you think about your infrastructure, I think this is an important. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of the questions. Thanks. So we're listing, answer these now. So we're listing on Vinted outside of Zipsale result in a ban too. I mean, an item I list myself with ID. Yes, it can. It can do, absolutely. And it does. Are people getting Vinted bans using Zipsale? I can't necessarily comment on more broadly on Zipsale. I can comment on our experience as well. So as a company, Aistetic, and no, we haven't heard of any of our customers getting bans from working with us and publishing on Vinted. So do continue to post the kind of questions and comments as we go, and I'll look to kind of stop and answer the questions and as we progress. So I think it's important to say, look, this is sort of a central summary of what we're talking about today. It's important that you consider consider what you own and what you rent. And I think to kind of be specific, right? You own your photos, you have your product knowledge, your measurements, your understanding of your product, your sourcing relationships, your pricing instincts, and your workflow. But what you are renting, and to be aware of it, is you're leveraging a marketplace account, right? Your search and visibility, your buyer access, your listing history, all of these things you're renting. And operators and resellers that survive these shocks understand the distinction between these two things and are very clear on owning as much as they can, and they have clarity and ownership of their data, which we'll talk about in a moment. So with that in mind, we recommend 6 things to do here. I'll come to the comments just in a moment. Some of these next slides will answer it. So one is own your inventory data centrally, right? You need a master record of your SKUs, your photos, your title, descriptions, measurements, everything. If you only have it in one marketplace, i.e. Vinted, that is extremely risky. The second is cross-list deliberately. So Vinted plays a role for sure. Fast-moving fashion, average ASPs are lower. eBay's longer tail, higher trust. You've got advantages to eBay with respect to scaling and relisting automatically. And Depop offers kind of trend-led vintage, a different target, younger target. And your own site, if you do have your own site, you can leverage that as your own property, right? The third thing to do is build a platform risk score. And I don't want to get too complicated about this, but fundamentally it's about, okay, what, if you think about your business, right, just take a step back. You've got sales, you've got margin, you've got account restriction risks, you've got, if you are operating via an API or manual workload, right, where is your business heavily leveraged? And where is that impact likely to be felt? So without kind of calculating a number or anything, it's not about that. It's about where is that risk, and only you can really answer that question kind of definitively. So the fourth thing we'd recommend is protect your cash and ensure. So I'm jumping around a little bit. So number 5, withdraw balances regularly. Obvious but super important. We'd recommend avoiding gray zone automation. So yes, you should be automating internal workflows, your photos, your listing creation, your pricing research, but avoid tactics that we know are explicitly banned and discouraged: duplicate listings, visibility manipulation. So automating your operation is distinct from trying to game a system and to go against what a platform or marketplace is advocating, and get your compliance in order. So you need your data. That includes your product data, your master SKU data, but you also need to be cognizant of the fact that HMRC will require a tax declaration if you exceed over 1,700 in gross revenue. So important considerations. I'm just going to hop for 1 second over to the comments. So I find Vinted not viable without the opportunity to directly. Yeah. So this is So great, great point. I think that is true. I think this underlines the importance of having a diversified approach to marketplaces. We would say you should not just be on one platform. Certainly in the current environment. So in these kind of scenarios, perhaps kind of bring it home. So if Vinted suspends your account today, this afternoon, you've got 200 live listings, 300 quid in your wallet. There's no appeal possible for days. Do you have your photos? Do you have your titles? Can you relist on eBay tomorrow? And you need to be able to. We would recommend you need to be able to do that. If I look at eBay for a second, if eBay changes their payment timing, how will that affect your cash flow? How are you going to be able to bridge your next payments? How are you going to continue to source? And do you have a buffer? What happens if Depop introduces a seller fee post-acquisition? How will that impact your business? And do you have the ability to kind of flip and move quickly onto other marketplaces and platforms? So thinking about the kind of the two scenarios here, right? You have a fragile situation where if you have 90% of your revenue in one marketplace, you've only listings live in one platform. So that data resides, that's just in one platform. You've got a workflow built around their set of tools. You don't have any product data outside that marketplace, and you've got cash in the wallet, which you cannot access or you have not accessed. That is extremely vulnerable. And there are resellers out there in that situation. What you need to be building towards is resilience from revenue across multiple marketplaces. We'd recommend 2 to 3 channels. That can be a split of 7-20-10, for example, lead, secondary, third kind of marketplace. But your master inventory, your record, your data needs to be owned centrally. You should have an ability with your workflow to be able to list across multiple marketplaces. It shouldn't be dependent on, and that's an important point to make, it shouldn't be dependent on just listing to one. And you should be making regular balance withdrawals. So contrast, I think 6-9 months ago, this situation kind of on the left-hand side was, it's a fragile situation, but the probability of a shock, and that shock impacting a reseller, was relatively low. That is, completely flipped now. So I think if you're not in the position in terms of getting your business in the right-hand side, we would strongly recommend you do that. You do that ASAP. So I'll pause just for a second, have a look and see if any more comments. Yeah, yes to step 1, I need to do this ASAP. Yeah, absolutely. So please do add comments as we go or questions. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you just around briefly. We don't have a huge amount of time, but I want to show you around a little bit our platform at Aistetic and show how this kind of ties into some of the things we've talked about. So a resilient approach that's kind of across that addresses this. So bear with me a second and do continue to put comments and questions in the chat whilst I do this. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with us, we are Aistetic. We are a photo to listing platform. So we work with resellers and platforms and businesses to help them accelerate their sales leveraging AI. So we take photos, and from those photos, you can list your items across marketplaces. That's what we do. So I want to show you a couple of bits of functionality, a couple of things that we do in the context of what we talked about, resilience. So, what happens if you have the unfortunate situation, that very first scenario, where you're banned from a marketplace. So just to explain a little bit, this is our dashboard. So this is what you see as a customer, as a partner. So I want to show you what would happen. So say I was banned from one marketplace, but I was using this solution today. So what would I do? Well, the first thing I would do is I would go into my settings, and say the situation was, right, I'm banned from Vinted. So I would go into my settings and market. You can see here I've got an eBay marketplace connected. So all I have to do in this case is I've lost the ability of Vinted, but I still have my data here, because effectively I can import my eBay listings here. So I have all of my data. Now, conversely, that can also work the other way. So if it's another marketplace you're in this situation, I can import in from Vinted as well within seconds. So all of your data, which is your data, is held centrally. So it's here. It's not residing in a marketplace. Your photos, your titles, your descriptions, your pricing, as well as actually any sales data, resides here, easily accessible to you. So that's an important point in the context of not being dependent on one marketplace, but equally being able to react quickly should you have a shock. So the second thing I wanted to show you was just the level of kind of quality of data that we're able to produce, because that's important in the context. This is not sacrificing quality. On the flip side, actually, we're able to deliver really, really strong listings. So this is actually a live example of a customer that has a sell-through rate in excess of 50%. That's on a 30-day basis. So their items are selling fast, and their average time to sell is between 5 to 7 days on average. So you can see here, this is live example. This is a title that has been optimized to sell. So with item specifics, you've got a recommended price, you've got the assessment of the condition, the category, and then the description. And this is all done from photos. So in essence, what happens is your workflow, which you own, like we talked about, which is extremely important. It's not dependent on the marketplace. Your workflow is you do your photos, you upload them here, and in batches, which our resellers really love, you're able to then publish, and you're not dependent on marketplaces. Now, in the case of Zipsale, so with Zipsale, you're able to cross-list, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, to multiple marketplaces. So you can take your data from Aistetic, and we have customers doing this, and they connect their marketplaces in Zipsale, up to 8, which is phenomenal, and they import their data in. And you can do that either via eBay, or you can do it via CSV. We would suggest probably the easiest is via eBay. So that's how the kind of two platforms kind of work together, and gives you a sense of how they work. And what we're able to do is save a huge amount of time, but also critically drive sales and drive your sell-through rate. So I'm just going to pop back for a second to the presentation. Okay. Thanks everyone. The issue I face is that Vinted is where all my sales are. eBay couldn't replicate my sales tomorrow if my Vinted were to be banned. Sure, that is a consideration, but what is true is what happens if you don't do it, I guess, right? How much are you going to lose by putting all of your eggs in one basket with Vinted? I think that's one thing. The second thing is, I think eBay is stronger than a lot of people think. We have customers, partners, resellers that sell extremely well on eBay. They sell at a higher average price, Their listings last for longer. There's a lot of advantages to eBay with respect to reliability, dependability, pricing, as well as sell-through. So yeah, someone's put in the example, I was suspended on eBay. Exactly, yeah. I was able to put them onto Zipsale and then put them on Vinted slowly. Okay. Yes, the relisting ban applies to Vinted Pro as well. Yeah, okay. So thanks everyone for the comments and questions. Keep them coming. So let's get into it. So I guess just in the context of, look, we as a business, Aistetic, we're launching. So we're in the process of launching our AI automation. But listen, don't take our word for it. These are customers. These are partners that use us, that work with us regularly. This is on Google. So for sure, happy to please check them out. We save time. We save a huge amount of time, and we help businesses and help resellers sell more faster. So we've got very, very happy customers, and we'd love to make more customers happy by working with you and helping you realize more sales, but equally ensuring that you are not left in a situation where you're banned or you have a shock to your reselling business. So we have a workshop exclusive offer, which I'm sharing with you today. So for all new signups, we offer 50 free AI generated listings to get started. So it's completely free to start with. That includes a personalized onboarding and setup. So we handle all of that for you. And after that, if you're good and happy, as a lot of our resellers are, we have an introductory offer currently, which is for the first 3 months, it's £25 a month for up to 100 listings, which is double the standard allowance. That includes everything. In addition, the workshop exclusive offer also includes 10 listing credits from Zipsale. So if you are interested, we'd love to onboard you, get you up and running. There are 2 steps to it, really simple. There's a QR code, couple QR codes here. One is just to sign up. So the top QR code, that's via Google or email, whichever is easiest for you, takes about 15 to 20 seconds. And then the second thing is just to activate. So activate the offer. So the green QR code, that literally is just a WhatsApp. And we automate that. Or automatically it populates, what I should say, it just populates an offer. It just tells us you've come in and you're going to get the offer. As simple as that. And then we'll start kind of the one-on-one onboarding. So I'm going to flip on to the next, just because I'm conscious if there's some more. Just going to look in the comments to see any more questions. I list approximately 900 a month. What would the cost be? Okay, great. So let's maybe if you drop me a note or activate the code, we can talk about that. That's likely a volume where we would look at an ongoing subscription, and we can talk about that separately. We're happy to talk about that separately. Okay. Any more questions and comments? Thanks so much, everyone. Yeah, sound. Momentarily lost that for a second, so hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, can you hear me okay? Am I audible? We lost sound for a second there. If someone could just reply in the comments and tell me that they can hear, that would be amazing. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so thanks so much, everyone, for joining. Yeah, with respect to, I guess, a few comments. Don't hesitate to kind of reach out with more questions and comments, whatever we can do to kind of help. I guess specifically, there's one question on kind of volume and the number of accounts. I'd suggest drop us a note. So I'll put in the comment as well my email. Any further questions and comments, whatever we can do to help. And then specifically, I guess, JKA1530, do drop me a note, and we can pick up on some of the challenges, some of the things you mentioned, so the specifics of your setup and account, and figure out a way that we can help. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for your participation and comments and questions. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you again. Take care. Have a good rest of the day.